Reaching up. And pulling down. Imagining resistance. And then up and out. So palms facing down to start with. And then just pulling in, like you're grabbing two handles and pulling these heavy objects towards you, and then pushing them away. And then keeping the arms straight, just bring them round to the front. And now the same action really, but just forwards. So basically rowing, pulling in and then reaching forwards. Just feel how the spine does the opposite of what it was doing when we were reaching to the side. So when I extend my arms, my spine is bowing forwards. Then when I pull the elbows back, my spine is arching and my chest is thrusting out. And now slip the left hand behind onto the sacrum and reach forwards with the right hand. So now we're going to do the same thing, but just pulling with one hand at a time. Just allowing the hand at the back just to settle on the sacrum, to bring some awareness to it. And reaching up. Same thing with the back hand. And then back to breath. And hands up and out again, but now with the palms facing up and turning the head. And then reaching behind, clasping the hands, straightening the arms, and looking up and circling. And winding it down. And then just holding the elbows behind the back. and leaning forwards. And pull back up. And then over the left leg and knee. And up. And then the right. And then repeating those three, but going all the way down if you can. And squeezing back up to the left. And up. And the right. And up. And round to prayer again. And now reaching to the side. Let the other hand reach behind in the opposite direction. And then reaching and let the front hand drop down onto the knee. Settle down into it and then just breathe yourself round. And slowly release out of it. And the other side. And then back round. And then these shoulder stretches we've been doing. So one arm across the body, the other arm hooking under. Just really trying to pull it towards you. So get the pressure on and then relax. The other side. The other version where we hook the hands around each other. The other side. So they say that any new exercise, assuming you're going to do it pretty much every day, takes about 6 weeks to learn how to do, to suss it out. So all of these things, they take time. And then the one where we reach up back and grab the hand with the other hand. And then the other side. And then releasing out. And then just stay in this position, but just look down at the left knee. So feel the leg. It's easier to feel it if you can see it. And then just separate the hands and place the left hand on the left knee. And just feel how there's so much more feeling there now. It's like the hand gives the leg permission to feel. And then looking down at the right knee. And the right hand down. And now let's breathe, but instead of doing this with the hands, which we normally do, we'll go up and down with it. So as you breathe in, imagine you're breathing from your bum, from the cushion, from the ground. So as you breathe in, something rises up. And then as you exhale, it flows back down. So very simple, palms facing up as you bring the breath up, and then palms facing down. As you bring the hands up, feel gravity pulling them down. So you're basically just pushing against gravity when you come up. And then lift the arms. And now just forget the breathing, but hold the arms here. And we're just trying to feel gravity pulling them down and me producing a movement upwards. So it's as though you're still lifting the arms, but so slowly. And it's being balanced by the pull down of gravity. So we don't want to just hold the arms and lock them. This is the balance of two movements. And then so I get that, I establish that if I can, and then just relax around it, especially in the shoulders here. So this is equilibrium, the balance of two movements. And ideally, we'd like to be in this state all the time. You can see what sort of attention it requires. And then just let go. Just let the arms just flop down heavily onto the knees. And then again, just lifting them slowly. And just see it. There's this sort of rising. You're connecting with this rising. So it's mind that's taking the arms up. It's not muscle. You're seeing a flow upwards and connecting to it, and it's going up and up and up and up and up. But the down is just as strong. So it seems to be still, but it's very much two movements balanced. And then with my mind, if I just let go of the up, gravity will just take them down with a flop. So let's try that again. So up. So this is it's like a posture of prayer, this. And then just let go. Ooh. Okay, let's try once more. And this time, as we bring the arms up, bring your attention to the sitting bones on your cushion and just feel the up also pushing you down. So I'm being driven down through my root, which is effectively my sitting bones here. So if I can keep my back really strong and arched, then this is almost this like effortless. So if I find myself thinking to myself, or my concentration wandering, then tension must have come in, especially in the shoulders to hold the arms up. The thinking requires tension. This is how we know it's wrong. And then just keep it going up. Oh, it's as though it's being pulled up. And then just coming down into prayer. And then bring the mind to the sacrum. So visualize it and feel it. And then just let the hands split, reach behind, and like one hand over each sacroiliac. And now it's more real. You don't have to imagine it now. Let's get a little bit of action like this a little bit, just to really feel the two sides different. And then bring the mind to the Dan Chen, to the front. And then separate the hands off the body and just bring them round to placing them on the belly, either side of the Dan Chen. And then just have one hand on the Dan Chen. So like the middle of the palm on the Dan Chen or the navel. And just bring the other hand up onto the upper heart. And then bring the mind to the occiput or the atlas bone, very top of the spine where it comes into the skull. And then just bring the hands up and place them either side. And then let the hands come up and out. And then one hand over, turning the head. So just getting into the figures of eights, twisting the arms. And then slowly bringing the hands in towards each other. Bottom of the figure eight is scooping under your bum or around the back of your waist, and the top just reaching over the head. And then reduce the figures of eight until they're very much centered in the heart and chest. So the figure of eight is so strong. It brings things together, but also keeps them apart. So it enables things to work together. And then let it squeeze down into the belly. Now scooping into the inguinal folds, these groin folds. And then bring it up again into the heart. And the bottom of the figure eight scooping into the armpits. And then let it squeeze up into the head, so as though it's squeezing up the throat. And when it gets to the head, it expands and fills it. Now the bottom of the figure eight scooping into the jaw or around the back of the neck. And then reducing until they're really centered at the pineal gland. You have to imagine where that is. Or between the eyes and inside. And then just forming prayer opposite the third eye. So the hands splitting the vision. And then breathing the head. So a lot of what we're trying to do really is just open up the two ends of the spine. So there's a sense of the spine extending upwards, but also a sense of the spine extending downwards through the tail. So open-ended, open. If you're really open, then your mind will be relatively quiet. And then there's a sense that it's almost like you don't really have a mind. I mean, the concept of the mind, your mind, is quite relatively modern. So this idea that, what's come into your mind has been generated by you, by your unconscious or your subconscious or your feelings or your resentments or anxiety. So we're just trying to open it up so there's not a lot of difference between what's inside me and what's outside. So becoming porous. So Charles Taylor, I think he was Canadian, I think he's dead now, but he was a philosopher. And he used to talk about, he wrote a very famous book called The Secular Age. So about the modern age. And so he talks about the porous self and the buffered self. So basically, the buffered self, the one that we have now, unfortunately, just really just means closed off. And the main way to close it off is almost like plug the top and the bottom of the spine. So we're just trying to take those plugs out. So this thing of equilibrium that we work with, so let's just open the arms up and just, so now, again, this feeling that the hands are just lifting, 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 but it's balanced by the tug of gravity. So this idea of the equilibrium, an endless up balanced by an endless down, that's very much taking the plugs out of the ends of the spine. And you can see it just requires constant vigilance. So if you find yourself thinking to yourself, then basically the plug has come back onto the top of your head. And this has to happen then, this endless loop inside the head. And then just reach up, hands together and down. So consider the human spine. So imagine a person lying down on the floor, face down. So they say the spine is three hills and two valleys. So you've got the thoracic spine, and then the valley would be the cervical spine, and then another hill would be the cranium, and then the other valley would be the lumbar spine, and then the other hill would be the cranium and the coccyx. Yeah. So it's got this undulating shape. So what we'd like is for that undulation to continue. So this feeling that you've got the curve of the cranium here, which is one of the hills or mountains, and then this sense that something rising up from your head. You know, John used to call it the Ankh or the cobra. So almost like your top of your head has been taken off, top of your skull. And then the same thing at the bottom. So you've got the sacrum is sort of curved like this. So we'd like the feeling that the sacrum is curved, but the coccyx can actually unravel and then curve out. Yeah, so I can stick my tail out, but without sticking my bum out. Yeah. So the spine extends beyond itself. And now just bringing the hands out to the side until we get into this mysterious peripheral vision realm. And just moving them up, just trying to. So, how does it make you feel? Is it frightening? Is it sexy? These human beings are quite basic, really. And then just tracing the peripheral vision. Just keeping the eyes fixed. Just try and get used to fixing the eyes without actually looking with them or not looking at what they're fixed on. It's the way, when they're daydreaming, their eyes just tend to be fixed. I mean, it's like daydreaming. So we fix the eyes, but we're not thinking to ourselves or imagining. We're actually just tracing the peripheral vision. So we are moving, but the eyes aren't moving. My attention is moving around the rim of the peripheral vision. And then just bring the top hand in and plucking that thread from the top of the head. And then continue. And then just back around here. And just how far back can you take them and still get a sense of them? And then the hands up again and down. And now let's try a bit of just stretching the legs. So just take the cushion out and then just one leg at a time. So it's under a bit of control. Just feeling it, just feel, 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 feel. And then the other leg. and then a little bit in the butterfly. Then round into the kneel. And then just down into the fetus. And up. And separating the feet a bit, sitting down between them. And then just leaning back. And then up. And then just a bit cycling. Let's just try stretching a leg. And the other side. And the other side again. And the other side. Just back into the squat. And then just coming on to the off the heels so that you can get a spine that's almost vertical. And then what we'd like to be able to do is just come up from here. So just if you think it's going to hurt you, just don't do it. But pushing down and coming up. Yeah, just look how far down the floor is now. And now let's just go down again. So come off the heels almost immediately, knees going out rather than simply forwards. And then squeezing up. And then at the last minute, heels down. And now let's just do some bouncing. So get the feet right, big toes in a little, little toes out, and bouncing. So remember, the two sides of my body, left and right, are joined by a figure of 8. So each side is separate from the other. So there's like a freedom. It's not regimented. They're not locked together. And just try and just relax the sacrum and the tailbone. So just working a little bit on that plug that is at the bottom of the spine, allowing the tail to unravel and extend out, and so back a little bit. So when the bottom of the spine is plugged up, then effectively we've got a tail that's between our legs all the time. So we're like these whipped curs, these depressed dogs. So, cats and dogs are the same, when they're happy, their tails stick up. And then alternating, and now you can really get the two sides doing different things. Gurdjieff, who I hope you've heard of, he talked about the Kundabuffer, which he says was an organ that was implanted in humans in this region, the tail, which sent them to sleep. And he says that organ was removed. I can't remember who it was, some sort of mythical figure. He says, but we're still trapped. We still have the mentality of beings that have this Kundabuffer, this sort of block. He says, but we don't need to be because it's no longer there. So we just have to really open up the bottom of the spine. Because unless you open up the bottom of the spine, the top won't open up either. So we know this from Tai Chi. You need to work on the root if you want to be able to reach upwards. And then just extending a little bit, making the feet a bit wider. A little bit wider still until you're pretty much a wide riding horse stance. And then just slow it down. And now just moving from leg to leg, but by bouncing, I sink into the leg and I'm thrown back. I want to feel our weight like a ball that we're throwing from foot to foot, like throwing a ball from hand to hand, like juggling. So my weight in my leg has enough strength to throw this ball up in the air. And then this has enough strength to catch it. So I'm throwing the ball up. And then there's a point in the middle where it's neither going up or down. That's the point of double weightedness. We just want to feel that as absolute lightness, almost like there's a sense of hovering. And then it drops down into the leg and then it's bounced out. So very much like the trampoline. So this is how we want to use the legs in Tai Chi. So we're not moving the weight from one foot to the other gradually. It's not like I'm pushing a block inch by inch. I'm bounding out of the leg and landing in the other leg. So energy rather than force. So if something is thrown up, my body follows it. And then we bring the mind to the other leg as well. So if you're simply bounding out of the leg, there's no guarantee that you're going to land in the other leg. So the other leg has to guide your weight into it. So this is the sense of pulling with the leg. So I sink into this leg, I'm bouncing out of it, and this leg instantly starts pulling a little bit just to guide the weight into it. And then it loads, springs out, and this leg. So you can think of bouncing out of the leg like a physical thing. But the pulling with the leg, the guiding the missile as like an aspect of mind. Always think of darts players. They're experts at this action. And yet if they simply did that, they're not going to hit the target. So their mind needs to be really on that target so that as they release it, it's actually being sucked towards that point. And of course, they often miss. And this is the thing with the mind. It's a little bit unreliable. There's no guarantees with mind, whereas with the body there is. You can't escape gravity. So I'm bouncing out of this leg, but this leg is always, it's ready. The difficulty really is not to allow the use of the mind to make the body tense. This is what tends to happen. So I just want to keep this. If I get tense and this won't behave like a spring, it won't bound me back. I'll have to fake it by actually using force. So the mind has to be used so lightly. And then just coming into riding horse. So first of all, with the hands on the hips, Feel the presence of the hands just forcing you to feel those bones as realities rather than simply something in your mind. And then, yeah, this bit is difficult, so be careful. So let the hands slide down the buttocks, down the backs of the legs, all the way to the knees. So you'll have to lean forward. So as you do, really let your tail just extend out behind you. And then without straightening the legs, just bring the arms up into riding horse, but without pulling the tail in. So the lower back becomes strong and curved, arched. Yeah, so I don't have my bum stuck out, but I do have my tail stuck out. Yeah, this is really important. Yeah, so even the tree, you know, what we're standing in now, has a sense of the animal. The animal, what distinguishes the animal is coming off the heels and extending the tail. So most animals have a tail, and the tail is obviously very useful. We don't have a visible tail, but obviously we do have a tail. We've got this tiny little coccyx, and we just want to wake it up and use it. And now coming into the animal, so lifting the heels, and now really extend your tail back behind you, but without leaning forwards too much. Yeah, so this is opening up the bottom of the spine. And now, figures of eights, round the foot, outside edge, and then around this foot, outside edge. So as you put one heel down, let the other one come up and delay putting the heel down. So once you put the heel down, it's like the weight just squeezes around from the heel around the outside edge through to the big toe. Just really trying to feel that outside edge. So the heel going down as it hits the ground gently. In a sense, that's the point of this leg having the weight. Until then, even I could have all my weight on this foot with the heel up, and there's a sense that it doesn't really have a root. So the heel goes down and ooh, the root is sucked out of the heel, but very much extending around the outside edge and the front of the foot. Imagine you've got like a really big snowshoe that allows you to really distribute your weight so you don't sink into the snow. So, ooh. And then just wind it down and bring the feet up, but without the heels down. So the heels still up. So it should feel shaky. I mean, it will feel shaky. So the knees are bent. So normally when we come off the heels, it's in order to reach high. So then we would have straight legs, but we want to get used to coming off the heels and bending the legs at the same time. Okay, and now out again. And now just moving from leg to leg, but more quickly. Very much like you're throwing a ball. So just normal speed rather than slow motion, which is what we normally do. Just getting the two legs to really be independent. And then using that to produce a turn. So now using both legs in order to produce this one thing, which is a turn to my left. And then using both legs to pull me back. And then using both legs to turn me to the right. So as I turn away from the front, effectively both legs are straightening a little bit. As I turn back to the front, both legs, but especially the back one, is bending. So it's difficult to gauge. Yeah, so both legs, they're working independently, but they're really listening to each other. It's getting control of this front leg straightening that's difficult. So we're not used to it. So it will either straighten too much and push me back into this leg, or it won't straighten enough and then this leg will push me into this leg. I want to just try my best to stay in the middle, but without locking everything. So it's the difficulty with energy. It's always possible to use force to do the same action a lot easier, really, but it's not the same. And then let the front hand slip behind. So now the cross energy, I'm taking energy up this leg and distributing it into the opposite arm. And just try and make sure your shoulders don't turn more than the hips. This is a real indication that you're using force if that's happening. And so what marks an energetic system is equilibrium. So when we have the hands and we're just lifting like this, so it should have the same sort of quality. It requires absolute care and vigilance. Like juggling. And then slipping into the sort of lifting hands version. So now driving yourself into the back foot. And just be really careful of the back knee. Okay. And then back to riding horse. So first of all, hands on the hips. And then the hands sliding down the buttocks, down the hamstrings to the knees. And then allow the tail to just protrude out behind you. And then bring the arms up by strengthening the lower back. But don't let the tail come in. Yeah, so when the tail is allowed out, then something is allowed out here as well. And so it just feels like you're just much more immediately in the world, in the space in front of you. When you've got the bum in, it's almost like you've been pulled inside and you're now observing from what we assume to be an advantageous position. So this is the opposite. We're just so passionate and so hungry to get out there, almost falling forwards. And that's the animal. The animal can't afford to be on the back foot because it will get trapped there. And then coming off the heels. And now my tail goes even more strongly backwards. The muscles in my lower back tighten even more. And I just feel the fire rising into my chest, centered at the thymus. And then down again, one at a time. So just do one round of this. And then just use it to bring the foot up. And then this foot, but without the heels down. Yeah, so off the heels. So you've got this, still got this figure of Aegon, but now it's got this real prowling feel Imagine doing this with a group of kids, they'd all be giggling, wouldn't they? Because it just generates levity when you have the heels off the ground. So that levity gets drained out of you and you put your heels down, everything becomes solid and serious. And now just one heel going down, one heel coming up. It goes down, but not in a heavy way. It's going down, really feeling the ground, and then it comes up again, like kissing the ground. Yeah. So like you've got all this sort of energy flowing up and down either side of your body, all the way to the top of the head. Just full of feeling. And then into the lumbering, limbering jog. And now let's try a bit of back and forth, but feeling the weight coming into the foot. Yeah, so to get the weight coming into the front foot, effectively pulling with the leg. Yeah? And so feeling the energy coming up the instep, up the inside of the leg, over here, and into the sacrum where it just joins your weight, really. Just becomes your weight, and then your weight settles into the heel and around the outside edge. And then this foot starts pulling, so you just lift the heel to accentuate that. The energy comes up the inside of the leg. Around here, the heel goes down, and then I feel the weight flooding around the outside edge. So up, so the heel up whilst the energy is coming up, and then the heel down to get the weight to go around from the heel. So up and down. So the energy is coming up the leg whilst most of the weight is in the other leg. And then the weight obviously goes down the leg as the weight comes into it. So up and ooh. Breathing in to get the energy to come up, and then breathing out to get the weight to just relax downwards. Then let's try it with the other foot forwards. So let's just start off like this, doing this exercise. And then just bring your mind to what we've just been doing. So pulling the energy up the leg, and then just get it to come out here. So building it up slowly. So as the hand comes up the leg, just let it slip behind and settle on the sacrum. And now let it settle onto the sacrum, but then instantly just trace this curve around the outside edge. 1, yes, it appears complicated, and it is. And just seeing that when you're having to concentrate on it to make sure you're getting it right, the energy can't really express. It's what John was so good at. We could come across something that was so complex, and within 3 repetitions, he had it. and then he could just be energetic with it. So this is where talent comes in useful. Yeah, so this thing of letting the hand come behind ourselves onto the sacrum or the Ming Men, yeah, it's important because that, if anything, is what gives permission for the tail to sort of become alive and start extending, unraveling. Okay, let's just try a little bit of this again. Yeah, so remember when we started back in the 80s when we started, and John, especially when he gave a talk, he'd often just have his hands like this. Yeah, so just using the touch to just bring the mind to the place. It's so easy, so useful. So just get used to just, especially the back here, I find this so useful. So with my students, to adjust their posture, I'll put one hand on their sacrum, one hand on their sternum, and then a sense that I'm trying to push them apart. I'm trying to push the sacrum down a bit and the sternum up. So that's the basic adjustment we need to be making all the time. And having the heels up is just so useful because it forces the legs just to be bent. And now just lifting the leg, but it's coming into the foot in the same way. So big toe down and then sucking the energy up the inside of the leg over the top into the sacrum and then allowing the heel down where the weight goes around the outside edge. It just distributes, so it's not only in the heel. And then the other leg can come up. So I'm pulling myself across. But until the energy gets up here into the sacrum, I have the heel up, and then I put the heel down carefully. Hits the ground and just oozes around the outside edge. So there's two phases to bringing the weight into the foot. One, drawing energy up the leg, and then two, allowing the weight to flow back down the leg. So the energy comes up, and then my heel, which symbolizes my weight, really goes down. And I just feel it flooding around the outside edge, little toe through to the big toe. And just really developing strength in the big toe. So it's always digging into the ground almost violently. And then that will stop your knees coming in. Right. And now feel the energy coming up the leg. And then as the weight starts pouring down, just let the energy that's come up come into the other side. So that can either be a strike or a step. So you could be striking with the foot or the hand. So my hand is with the energy here, and then it passes it into the other side of my body, and then the hand is with the weight that's going down, and this now takes the energy. Yeah, so it's complicated. This is what we just want to get used to, the two sides switching all the time. So yin becoming yang, yang becoming yin. Wow. Yeah, so you get into it just by concentrating on the energy or the weight rather than both. It's just mind and body. So the mind is with the energy, and the body is just your body is with the weight, obviously. So the mind body is very different from the energy body. So the energy comes up, for a moment settles into the sacrum, and then is distributed into this arm or leg. And we just have to realize as well that these images that we have, these pathways, that's all they are. is just a way of working and a way of getting into it, really. So if you practice, let's say you're going to do this for half an hour, then hopefully by the end, you'll have got a different, better image. So we don't want our images to become carved in stone. They're really ad hoc. Okay. So let's just finish just with a bit of stretching. So pulling the knee up. Just want to feel the pull upwards of the knee, cranking your lower back down your supporting leg. And now lifting the foot behind, stretching the thigh. Trying to pull the heel into the buttock, but also really trying to extend your knee downwards. So this muscle is really getting stretched. And then the other leg. And then lifting the foot into the groin. Right. And let's just try the tree and the animal one more time, and then we'll finish. Okay, so sliding down the buttocks with the hands down the hamstrings to the knees, Then just really let your tail extend out, so arching the lower back a little bit, and then bringing the arms up without bringing the tail in too much. And then into the animal. So it's not that different. It's very different in the legs, but the spine isn't that different than the one we've just done the tree. And then one heel down, bring the other foot up, keep the heel up, and then put the weight into this foot, keeping the heel up. Bring the other foot up, so both heels up, both legs quite bent. And then slowly and gently, one heel down, the other heel down, and allowing the legs to straighten a little bit, but still remaining bent. So very much feeling this play between the two sides, the two legs. So now the obvious place in the body where there is equilibrium is the soles of your feet. Just feeling that flow from you into the ground and the flow up from the ground into you. And this feeling that as it's coming up one side, it's going down the other. So you're having to struggle quite hard just to keep yourself still here. And then just wind it down.